Guys, we're somehow almost 3 months into 2025, and I still haven't locked in and started the Randograph Fansly y'all keep asking for. So to get my mind right, I've been seeking out the grind set. And nothing captures that mentality like the show Eddy! Nobody hustled like these dudes. Not only did the Eds have a dozen scams for each day of the week, Eddy also knew how to pivot mid-scam to better align with the bag. But was all that hustling worth it? If their schemes weren't always blowing up in their faces, how much money would the Eds have made scamming the cul-de-sac? Since some of y'all have the audacity to be born after 2004, here's a quick rundown on Ed, Edd, and Eddy for the uninformed. The show follows these three. Ed, Edd, Eddy! Ed is as strong as he is dumb and loves buttered toast. Double D is the brains of the trio and is crazy OCD. And Eddy is the pint-sized mastermind. With all the charm of a used car salesman, Eddy scams more than the entire population of Nigeria combined. A typical episode sees the three try to pull off some sort of scam on the other kids in the cul-de-sac. I'll go ahead and acknowledge that not every episode of the show involves a scam, but of the 13 episodes and 26 segments in the first season, 14 involve the Eds playing some sort of angle. So let's dive into season 1 of the show and figure out how much the Eds made from their scams pre-shit blowing up in their faces. Right off the bat, there's a few things you need to know about how the Eds run their scams and how we'll be assessing them. The reason the Eds are out here every week trying to earn a quick buck is so that they can buy jawbreakers. According to Eddy, these lunar-sized lozenges run 5 cents a pop.
So boys,
Ew.
what's big, round, costs a nickel,
Jawbreakers!
Which is a good bit less than the 25 cents the Eds charge for their scams. There are some instances where Eddy decides to charge 50 cents, but unless one of the Eds or the signage says something different, we'll go with 25 cents as the cost of doing business. There is also some inconsistency on whether or not Plank is counted as a person, but for simplicity's sake, we'll assume he isn't unless presented with evidence stating otherwise. Last thing that needs to be prefaced is the dissonance between the animation and the story. Regardless if the Eds are charging 25 or 50 cents, it's not possible for Eddy to have a jar with at least 14 quarters in it when there are only 7 potential suckers in the cul-de-sac. This is clearly a visual choice because it's a cartoon and having a jar full of coins reads better for the viewer. So we'll be ignoring how much money Eddy is holding and use attendance numbers for our calculations. So the plan of attack is to start the pilot and work our way back going over every scam. And at the end, I'll give you a stat breakdown like it's GTA or the ideal version of heaven. Starting out with the episode, The Ed Touchables. After several objects go missing,
Where is she?
What? Who?
My dolly!
and smelling a quick buck, the Eds try to track down the serial toucher. After drip torturing Johnny and Plank for a confession,
Okay, I did it! I took everyone's stuff!
the Eds collect payment from the 5 remaining cul-de-sac kids, adding a cool $1.25 to the ledger. Next up is the episode Over Your Ed, which is actually our first scam double feature. At the beginning of the episode, the Eds are selling their NOG drink, lemonade stand style, but Ed derails the operation before they can make any sales, earning them $0. Later in the episode, Ed gets drip and starts indiscriminately aura farming.
Swiggity swag, what's in the bag?
Eddy capitalizes on this and sets up a meet and greet that the entire cul-de-sac turns out for. Also, this is the only time Eddy decides to count Plank as a person and charges him, adding $1.75 to the ledger. Sir Edsalot is the first scam with an asterisk next to it, because the hustle is that Ed is getting paid to babysit his little sister Sarah, which is normal kid shit. But it's when Eddy and Double D get involved that things start to trend in the direction of a typical Ed boy scam. Regardless, they trash the house in the process, so there's no way they got paid. $0 added to the ledger. The next episode, Read All About Ed, is a similar vibe. Double D has a paper route that earns him 5 cents. Things go awry when Eddy signs the 3 up for like 20 more routes. In typical Ed fashion, they don't deliver the papers, so $0 added to the ledger. Now on to Look Into My Eds, where the Eds have opened a bus line from the cul-de-sac to the candy store. With the whole neighborhood on board, the Eds add a slick $1.50 to the ledger. After a minor collision and some Psych 101, Eddy now has the ability to use hypnosis and commands Monkey Boy Kevin to collect a quarter from the other 4 kids under Eddy's control. He even gets 25 cents out of Double D. Internal billing issues aside, this adds $1.25 to the ledger.
Man, your hammer nailed you, pal. Al Moore's wife's name is Tipper. I knew we'd be best friends for life when I saved you from that chipper. My best friend Plank. My best friend Plank. My best friend Plank.
Tag Your Ed has an Eds vs. Cankers cage match that the entire cul-de-sac shows up for. Even though we don't see an admission fee charged, there's no way Eddy wasn't channeling his inner Vince McMahon. I'm sure he was way too greedy to negotiate a profit split with the Cankers, so it had to be a winner-takes-all type of match. With the Eds getting collectively twisted into a single pretzel, we add no money to the ledger. Dawn of the Eds is our last legit job scam because the episode opens with the Eds dumpster diving for glass bottles. The payout on glass bottle recycling ranges from 5 to 15 cents per bottle. If we err on the low side, they earn 40 cents for the 8 bottles collected. Not really a scam, but throw it on the ledger and let's move on. On to the episode Vertigo, where the Eds build a swanky treehouse and start making outlandish claims about the amenities their club offers.
You're gonna have stock car races?
You betcha.
And just where are you gonna hold yacht races? And how are you gonna pay for all this?
Hey! Good question, Kevin. Funding for such high-quality events will become reality after I collect everybody's membership fee.
Actually, Eddie, even with membership fees, I don't know that we can afford to have these events.
Only for the Cankers to pull some squatters' rights bullshit and cuck them out of the clubhouse. $0 added to the ledger. In A Boy and His Ed, the Eds dig a moat in the alley and set up a drawbridge to collect some dough.
The door worked!
Unfortunately, they abandon the endeavor pretty early on when they hear someone is handing out free jawbreakers. Once again, $0 added to the ledger. Laugh Ed Laugh opens with an Ed Boy ice cream truck, but it turns out everyone is sick.
Double D!
Huh?
Behind you! Back, chicken boy! Back!
Hey, look!
Oh dear, a quarantine.
No kids equals no scams, so Eddy legit crashes out and goes crazy. $0 added to the ledger. Edzaggerate starts with the Eds putting the final touches on their amusement park, Edland. But it's abandoned before even getting off the ground when they accidentally launch some furniture into Kevin's house. So once again, and let's all say it together this time, $0 added to the ledger. In A Glass of Warm Ed, after a night of sleep binge eating the entire cul-de-sac's food supply, Ed has essentially become a walk-in fridge, leading Eddy and Double D to repurpose the NOG stand and open Edmart. While it's at the tail end of an episode, we see Johnny pay 50 cents for some Chunky Puffs.
That'll be 50 cents!
So that breaks the Ed's dry spell and adds 50 cents to the ledger. Also, this is like the only time an episode ends with Eddy having the money in hand. Flea-bitten Ed sees the opening of Ed's Pet Boutique. While scoping out Rolf's farm for some animals, Eddy takes a new angle on the scam and signs the group up to clean all of Rolf's livestock.
So, for a little green, we'll make your dirt-stained, flea-infested animals clean!
Flea infested? You must be poking my eggplants. That would give me more time to watch the curd rise from the cheese of my grandfather's bats. Okay, advice?
We never see the two parties agree on a price, but 25 cents seems like a steal for the amount of man-hours Rolf is getting. Luckily, the Eds botch it in typical fashion and end up doing a Cronenberg, but with rabbits. So, in lieu of societal collapse, $0 added to the ledger. And at the tail end of the season, there's a Vasty Eds. After the wheels fall off their tire swing, $0 added to the ledger. They rebrand to Ed's River Cruises. They get Jimmy, Johnny, and Plank on board, and despite Ed saying the quiet part out loud,
Captain Eddy says only 2 suckers at a time.
we can add a final 50 cents to the ledger. So after 17 scams, the Eds earned a fat $7.15, which is almost enough to buy 143 jawbreakers. The most successful scam was the Ed meet and greet. Since Eddy decided to charge Plank, they were able to get a fat $1.75 out of it. Their most profitable episode was Look Into My Eds, with not one, but 2 scams each bringing in over $1, earning them $2.75 between the candy bus and hypnosis schemes. It wasn't all hits though. Of the 17 scams, 5 of them were duds that nobody fell for. Also, despite making over $7, the Eds only ever managed to convert that to jawbreakers once, and they didn't even get to enjoy them. To circle back to the question, does it pay to scam the cul-de-sac? The answer is no. And I don't even mean it like $7 is chump change. The Eds caused an unknown amount of property damage over this first season. In fact, that last episode had Ed's kitchen stove get used as an anchor. If anything, it's a net loss to scam the cul-de-sac. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on Ed, Ed, and Eddy, or if any of your grandparents have fallen for a phishing scam in the comments down below. See you on the next Randograph.